Welcome to the Art Project. Welcome to drawing challenge number 14. This one, in one sense, is not the most exciting picture ever, but it is an excellent challenge, I think, for you. Gather some materials, some different kind of paper, maybe like some graph paper like I've got, or some notebook paper, or just any kind of paper. It doesn't really matter. Don't make it too complex. And then grab you some colored paper that you can stick down, or colored tape, or even just regular colored paper that you can put some glue on the back of. Glue it to your paper, whether it's graph paper, drawing paper, copy paper, notebook paper, whatever. A piece of black duct tape here. And stick it down and then draw it. I started off with a light drawing all the way around of the colored paper that I stuck down. Somehow or another I lost the video footage of that, but I drew it and then I started shading it in. Now, this is the key to the whole thing. Listen carefully. Number one, when you're done, there should not be any outlines. Number two, the value should represent the paper in terms of darkness or lightness as much as possible. In other words, if your yellow paper is yellow, then it's just going to be a little bit darker than white, probably. If your color is blue, it's going to be a lot darker than white, but not black. So basically what you're trying to do is translate color into value. And I think in a few minutes you're going to see what I'm talking about. Do whatever it takes, short of smudging. Do not smudge with your finger, because the oils from your finger will get into the paper and make it nearly impossible for you to erase. It basically stains the paper with graphite. If you get oil on the paper and then graphite in the oil, it makes it permanent in your paper. So be careful about that. And also, you might want to put down a piece of paper between your hand and the paper you're working on to protect the paper from smudging with the edge of the palm of your hand. Just a couple ideas. So, I didn't come up with this little drawing challenge on my own. There are some other ones on YouTube where someone crinkles up a piece of Post-it note and then makes a very realistic picture of the Post-it note next to the Post-it note. Pretty neat stuff. I like it. Not terribly exciting as far as composition and all of that, but this is training. This is practice. This is just us trying to learn how to hone our skills with shading and with the pencil. So you want to just try and use the pressure of the pencil. No smearing. I wouldn't even use a tortillon or a blending stump at this point. I would just try to use the pressure of the pencil and try to get in between the scribbles, if you know what I mean. Like, sometimes when you scribble, you can see this value and then a white space, and then the same value again. You want to get it nice and smooth. My paper has a little bit of a texture to it. It's actually a piece of drawing paper, but you can just use white copy paper. And once you have some base values established, just go back and kind of tweak them and smooth them out the best you can. This is probably my favorite piece right here, this piece of tape, because it had a couple of wrinkles in it. And I think I would honestly just like to maybe do this over, get a piece of tape and kind of make some wrinkles in it and put it down and see what happens. So like there's a wrinkle right there, and I try to capture it by putting a little bit more shadow on the left and erasing a little bit of highlight on the right. I had a lamp shining on my paper, on my little, it's basically a paper still life. Not quite like the ones we made the other day, but a little paper still life. And again, this particular piece of paper, this piece of tape here had some textures on it. It also had some writing on it, but I didn't try to do the writing. I think I could have done it, I think, but the main thing about it was that it was real block letter and real controlled and all of that. And while it was nice, and I probably ought to get it just for the authenticity look of the tape and all that, I decided not to stress myself about that right now. This is supposed to be a quick, simple challenge. It took me about an hour to do the whole thing, and that was basically from start to finish, but I was distracted a lot. I have children, and I had to tend to their needs, and so I had to get up and come back, and get up and come back. But overall, every time I sat down, I would record and then stop when I got up, and all the video footage was about an hour's worth. So go ahead and set aside, if you have a couple of sheets of paper instead of 4 like I did, it might not take you as long. This is the book part of it, and so I got that as well, and that really helps add some credibility to just the pieces of paper that I had. So the book that I had was basically a graph paper book, and I just used it because I thought it was interesting. One of the things that complicated matters was the graph on it. I wanted to do the graph, but I also didn't want to spend the amount of time that I really should have in order to make the lines the way they should go. And so I did get out a ruler and mark off increments, but because the paper's curved and folded, or not really curved and folded, but like, it's not flat, it's not totally flat. Well, then because of that, the lines on the paper should not really be totally flat either, but I did them that way. Anyway, I'm just kind of rambling on. Notice also here that even though the paper's white, the paper it was white, there really isn't any real white in the drawing. I mean, I guess I probably did not shade it as much as I should have, and so yeah, there probably is some white, but I basically shaded the entire book in ever so lightly in some places and darker in others, because where the light hits it, that's white. Where the light doesn't hit it, as you can see right there close to the fold of the book, is shadow, or close to that edge, the bottom right hand corner that flips up, that's got a little bit of shadow on it. And there was some reflected light around some of the pieces of paper that I could see. Those were white, which meant if those were white, then the paper that the area, it's kind of hard to explain. In other words, nothing's really white except for the highlights or direct light. There was no direct light, but there were highlights, and those highlights were in weird places. So here's where I used the ruler, and like I said, if I was doing this right, I would have made the lines curve with the paper, but I just kind of cheated a little bit and drew straight lines using my ruler to do the graph paper. You do whatever it takes to make your paper look the way it should. The point here is you're looking at things with color, and we just trying to keep it simple and used flat stuff like paper, trying to translate the color into value. That's what I was doing here. I probably got a little bit carried away and tried to make this look more realistic than you have time for. But the basic idea is translate color into value. Shade in black and white, or graphite and white, the picture that you set in front of yourself. Use a couple Post-it notes, some tape, just some colored paper laying around. If you got some construction paper, you could put a little stick glue on the back of it and lay it down. You could just take a Post-it note and crumble it up and lay it down. Try and flatten it back out a little bit and try and draw that. That would be challenge enough. But again, translate color into value. So as you can see, the little post-it note that I tore on the left is yellow. The next piece of paper is another post-it note, and it's kind of a pink or salmon color, maybe. I'm colorblind, so I don't really know for sure. There's a piece of blue tape and a piece of black duct tape in a filled notes book with graph paper, and I think the graph is actually green. So after I put the graph down, I erased it a little bit, and then I had to come back and shade it all over again. But all right, ladies and gentlemen, there you go. Again, this is shading practice. This is the challenge that I'm setting before you today. Work on your value. Next week, we're going to try and do some stuff maybe in color. So we have done line, we have done form, we have done value, and so I'm looking forward to next week. We might do texture and then do color, but I don't know. I haven't decided yet. Anyway, thank y'all for keeping up with me. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, share it, comment down below, let me know what you think. How'd I do? How'd you do? Post your stuff on Instagram and tag me in it. My Instagram is in the description down below or in the description of one of my other videos. Go make some art.